Hello, welcome back to the Watford Way. I've returned from Spain and we're here again with some more major Watford FC breaking news. After the departure of Tom Cleverley, Watford are thrilled, that's their word, and they're thrilled to confirm the appointment of Uruguayan manager Paulo Pezzolano. They haven't confirmed his length of contract, although Alex Crook of Talksport has reported that Paulo has signed a 1-year contract with the option to extend for a further season. So, where do I begin with this one? Goodness me. I don't know where to start. So let's talk about firstly the sacking of Tom Cleverley, because ever since the sacking of Cleverley, we've had what we call the bookies odds, the favourites for the Watford managerial job. We started with Alberto Garrido, who was, if you remember, the guy who brought in from Real Madrid B last summer to kind of assist Tom Cleverley. He was the initial favourite for the job. We then had Sean Dyche's name thrown in there, Gary O'Neill. Pacheta was another name, of course. He was obviously rumoured with replacing Tom Cleverley in January. And yeah, here we are. Here we are with the official confirmation. So, before we dive into how he plays, because I've had a couple of people who watched him at his previous clubs give me some information earlier today. Before we dive into that information, we are going to read through the official Watford club statement, because I haven't had a chance really to do so myself yet. So I'm going to bring this up on screen now. And there you go. As you can see, on the Watford club website, official Pezzolano, at least that's how I believe you pronounce his name, has been appointed as the new head coach. Watford FC are thrilled to announce Paulo Pezzolano as the club's new head coach. The Uruguayan, who's 42, has carved out a reputation as a promotion specialist. Interesting word in there. Having reached the top divisions in Spain, Brazil, and Uruguay. We'll come on to that, of course, later in the stream, and has a rich pedigree of working with young players and establishing a clear playing identity. Now, what I would say firstly, before we move on to Juan-Luca Nani's comments, is that when they sacked Cleverley, the wording in the sacking statement suggested to me that we were going to have someone a lot more experienced than Paolo, because he is only 42 years old. He's had, I think, 4 or 5 real full-time jobs in his career thus far. I thought we were going to bring in someone maybe in like their 50s, 60s, a real experienced head as a manager. I feel like, at least from Gino's statement and Juan-Luca Nani's statement, I feel like that's what they hinted at. Then the shortlisted managers we've been looking at over the past few days haven't really matched that description. And of course, the confirmation now that Paolo is the manager is interesting. But yeah, they alluded there to the fact that he has achieved promotion in Spain, Brazil, and Uruguay, which is a true fact. Now, I'm not going to sit here and claim that I knew who this person was before he was appointed Watford manager today. I feel like my football knowledge is pretty good, but it doesn't go to the extent of random Uruguayan managers. So it's a long way away from Tom Cleverley, is what I would say. I feel like we were very comfortable with Tom. We knew how he spoke, we knew how he conducted himself, and we were all quite content, I felt, with how it was going generally at the club. I know some people may disagree, of course, because then people do exist. But yeah, there we go. We'll move on to the rest of the statement. Juan-Luca Nani commenting here. Interesting, very interesting that Scott Duxbury hasn't put his name to any of these statements. Of course, Scott Duxbury openly admitted himself that Tom Cleverley and Rob Edwards, going back to him, both, of course, young English managers. Scott Duxbury did allude to the fact that they were both his appointments. And yeah, clearly, well, it suggests to me anyway, the fact Juan-Luca is putting his name to these suggests that it was very much his and Gino's decision. And yes, Scott Duxbury probably wasn't very happy. But as I mentioned in my Tom Cleverley sacking video, if Scott Duxbury doesn't have any authority in his role as CEO, he should resign, in my opinion. But we'll leave that for another day. So let's bring back up the statement once more. So João Lucas says Paulo has a hugely impressive track record working with young players, which is essential when you look at the age profile of our squad. Interesting. Okay, we'll come back to that. He has had success at virtually every club, including league titles and promotions. They're very set on this fact of promotions as well. That's a key word I'm seeing repeated in this statement quite a lot. Promotions. Clearly, that is what Gino Pozzo wants. Of course, as fans, we want promotions as well, but I still felt we were on, roughly the right track under Tom Cleverley to achieve promotion either next season or in a couple of seasons' time. So, yeah, very interesting here. But it is his work on the training ground that impressed the most when we undertook our research. Right. He has innovative ideas and processes which he transmits passionately to the players. We believe Paulo is the leader we need. So clearly Tom Cleverley wasn't the leader they needed. Clearly that's what he's saying there. As we refocus ahead to the new season, he is fully aware of our ambitions and determination to push for promotion and embraces that challenge. Okay, let's break that down right now. He is fully aware of our ambitions. Okay, let's think about this for a moment. So, João Nani there is clearly stating, and we have to take this, we have to assume Gino thinks the same, right? Because that's all João Nani is a spokesperson for Gino Pozzo. He's saying there, he knows our ambitions, he's fully aware of our ambitions and determination to push for promotion and embraces that challenge. So, from my perspective as a fan, that is what I'm going to judge the club on now. Because that is what they're targeting. So I'm expecting loads of transfers worth loads of money in the summer. I'm expecting a squad capable of challenging for promotion. Because most importantly, let's remember, Tom Cleverley, in my opinion, and I'm sure a lot of you believe the same as well, he far exceeded my expectations, especially in that first half of the season. He had Bayo, Kayembe, the list goes on. Players who probably weren't up to the standard of challenging for promotion. And João Nani there, saying very clearly in his statement that the ambition and determination is to push for promotion and that Paulo embraces that challenge. He also said that Paulo is the leader we need as we refocus ahead of the new season. So was Tom Cleverley not the leader you needed then? I assume so, judging by João Lucas' comments there. He goes on to say the club achieved great success when making similar appointments in Slavica Jokanovic, Javi Gracia and Xisco Munoz. I don't know quite why he's comparing them three managers to Paulo, but we'll continue. And we hope fans welcome Paulo and wish him every success as we try to achieve the owner's clear aim of challenging for a return to the Premier League. Following, and then it's just basically a biography of Paulo's career. Okay, so what I've learned from that statement is that Gino Pozzo is pretty delusional. I can't quite believe what I've read there. Wow. Okay. I'm struggling to take in what I've read. Really, it's just the wording, talking about Paulo's previous promotions in Spain, Brazil, Uruguay, the pedigree of working with young players, establishing a clear playing identity. I just find the wording really interesting. The word promotion must be in this web article 5 or 6 times at least. So, okay, wow. So my initial reaction to this, what can I say? I mean, I've made my feelings very clear already. I would much rather just have Tom Cleverley re-sign as the head coach and we all just forget that this happened and imagined it was some sort of nightmare or like a bad dream. Because, my word, I mean, the delusion is absolutely off the scale here. Goodness me. I mean, given the current state of the squad, we are not a promotion challenging team. Let's make that perfectly clear. We saw it last season. We've seen it towards the end of the season as well this year. The players we have are not capable of mounting a long-term challenge for promotion in this division as it stands. If Gino Pozzo and Gianluca Nani are clearly stating in this statement that our clear aim is promotion back to the Premier League next season, if that's what they're stating, I expect to see the required investment into the playing squad this summer. And I'm not just talking about the likes of Cipriano joining on a free transfer or other people joining for small transfer fees. You know, I'm expecting to see Gino spend big money at this point because that's what he wants. Now, it's very rare for a club to go up and not spend money. Sunderland this season are a prime example. And whilst I enjoy the football Sunderland play, Enzo Lefebvre, you know, he's valued, I think they got him from Roma, right? He's valued upwards, upwards towards of like 30 million euros. So promotion to the Premier League is very difficult to do without the required finances. And Gino Pozzo doesn't have them required finances. So again, I'm just going to bring this back up one more time before we get on to how Paulo plays, because I was speaking to someone earlier out in Brazil who watched him at one of his previous clubs, and it was quite interesting to get their view on things. But one more time, let's just go through some of this wording here. The club achieved great success when making similar appointments in Slavisa Jokanovic, Javi Gracia, and Xisco Munoz. And we hope our fans welcome Paulo. Well, I'm not sure about that, but we'll continue. And wish him every success as we try to achieve the owner's clear aim of challenging for a return to the Premier League. For me, Gino Pozzo seems like a gambling addict. He's got worse and worse as the years have progressed, and it's getting to the point now where I don't think he can afford to invest much in the playing squad financially. And the only thing he can really control, at least in his eyes, seems to be the head coach. And Gino has always been very set on the idea of a head coach being able to change a playing squad's fortunes. And that is the case. You know, good head coaches, I must add, have a huge influence on how well maybe lesser quality players can perform at a higher level. And that's true for some of the managers they listed there in that club statement. What worries me, though, is that our financial situation is such that we just can't afford to buy the players required for Paulo's system. And that's what we'll get onto now. I'm just going to take a quick look at some of your comments. Ted says, who is he? I think you're thinking the same as a lot of people said. I didn't know who Paulo was before this stream today. Carl here. Bad move in your opinion. Matt says, hey James, new manager in, but how long will he be in the job for with Pozzo still around? Well, the club statement there, if we thought it was quite vague last season in regards to what the targets were, the club statement there clearly outlining what they want next season. They want promotion back to the Premier League. Do they want automatic promotion? Have you seen the teams coming up next season? Wrexham, Birmingham, you've got Southampton, Ipswich, Leicester, all coming down. For me, with the additions of Wrexham and Birmingham, the league is going to be 10 times harder. I mean, them teams have so much money behind them. I don't think people realise how much money Birmingham and Wrexham have behind them. You've also got the parachute payment teams coming down, as they always do, of course, with that money behind them as well. So for me, it's going to be to achieve their aspirations with this new manager. It's going to be extremely difficult. Carl says he plays very exciting football. Andy Stacey, hello. Be interesting to see what happens. Absolutely. Eugene McGeever, hello Eugene. I hope you are well. Where do you think Watford will finish next season with Pozzo? I assume you meant Paulo there. I've got no idea. I think it's too early to judge that, of course, because no transfer business has been done. But as I've repeated many times, I would much rather Tom Cleverley would have just stayed on as manager, and we could all sleep much easier at night. It's no Cody says promotion incoming next season. Well, that's their aim. Apparently so. That is their aim. The final whistle says he'll be gone by November, maybe even earlier. Who knows? We know what Gino Pozzo's like. If the season starts badly, I think Paulo will be gone. And I just want to reiterate something as well. Whilst the club haven't stated the length of Paulo's contract, just before 7 p.m., Alex Crook of TalkSport did confirm that he believes Paulo has signed a 1-year deal, which is very short in manager terms. He signed a 1-year deal with the option to extend for a further year. Now, in January, the rumours with Pacheta were also that he was going to sign, I believe it was a 6-month deal, and then if he got promotion to the Premier League, his option would then be extended for a further year. So we're seeing similar things there from the rumours we heard in January. Louis says he might end up like Ange with his style of football. Again, we'll come on to that in just a moment. Melanie, hello, one of our channel members. Thank you so much, Melanie. She says, I'm beyond caring at this point, to be honest. I think a lot of people are in your boat. Carl says, do I predict a Pozzo out banner at the Vic next year? We'll be watching from the lower Graham Taylor stand. To be honest, I don't think Watford... to be honest, I have to say this right now. So Vicarage Road, whilst I agree this should be a thing, Vicarage Road is Watford's own private property. So if it's their prerogative and they want to, they can just stop all banners coming into the ground if they wish to. And that might be something they choose to do, because that is who we're owned by. We're owned by a man who quite simply doesn't care about your opinions. So whilst that's a good idea and I can get on board with that, I don't think Gino Pozzo would like a Pozzo out banner in his own stadium, personally. So given how the blokes acted recently, it wouldn't surprise me if they banned banners entirely. Nathan, as long as he is exciting and gets results, I'm happy. Okay, a slightly different perspective. I, of course, can agree. I do wish Paulo the best. I have to reiterate, of course, because he is the manager of our football club at the end of the day. But I just can't support what this owner does, of course. He doesn't even have to be excited if he gets money. Then I don't quite understand your message there, Nathan, but I appreciate it nonetheless. It is the Watford way. We have all these managers who are being rumoured about, and then we get someone who didn't even crack the top 25. It makes no sense. Yes, he come out of the blue this morning. So he wasn't even rumoured with the job until about 9 or 10 a.m. this morning, when he suddenly, kind of out of nowhere really, he emerged as the front runner for the role. So yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. It's weird how quickly these things happen sometimes. Howway the lads, got a Newcastle fan in here. Welcome. Your club is in a much better state than ours, I can assure you. Charlie Waterman, hello. This is the worst thing to have happened. League One is a certain possibility in my eye. The final whistle, aside from the obvious needing a striker, where else do you think we need to strengthen in the summer? Oh, where do I get started? Do you want me to do a whole separate video about this? Where do we need to strengthen in the summer? Goodness me, I would say, even though we've got 2 right backs, I would say another right back is a possibility. Personally, I wouldn't be opposed to seeing Ryan Andrews go out on loan, but that's just my own personal opinion. Defensive midfielder. I mean, it's all changed now. Obviously, Paulo plays a completely, well, not completely different to Tom Cleverley, but certainly it requires a lot more energy. So we're going to need players with a lot of lung capacity, I'm going to say, for Paulo's system. Ryan says, hi James, how was your holiday? It was very nice, thank you. Tom, who is this new guy we have appointed? Well, let's get on to that right now. So Watford have appointed Paulo Pezzolano. I think that is how you pronounce his name. So I've been speaking to a fan of one of his previous clubs out in Brazil earlier today. They actually sent me a message when they saw the news, because they were quite surprised themselves actually. And I've got kind of 4 bullet points here I've been told about his general style of play. Now, by no means am I, a football tactician or an expert in that regard, but you can see, at least for me, some clear differences between Paulo and Tom Cleverley in how they like to play. There are similarities, of course, in any system, but it does seem very different. It requires a lot of energy. So the person I spoke to said that his players had to be very aggressive without the ball, high pressure, very high pressure, high blocks. So you'd imagine the likes of Kevin Caben, James Abankwah, if they stayed around the club, that would be a centre back pairing we would see next season, because obviously playing a high line, high pressure, that requires fast, quick, agile players. So yeah, interesting there. He heavily values possession, and I'm kind of alluding to the bit on the website where it talks about Jukanovic, Gracia, Xisco Munoz as well. I think this is something Watford really sought after in the new head coach, valuing possession and achieving results through possession. Now, of course, teams can be very successful without the ball. Leicester, famously during their Premier League season, they were winning games with 20-30% possession with relative ease. So it can be done, but this manager in particular, the main talking point I've received from a couple of people I've spoke to is that he really loves to dominate the ball, and he really likes to play as high as possible up the pitch. So that is very interesting. And also the last bullet point I've got here is stamina. His teams have some of the highest running stats in their respective divisions. He's managed Montevideo, Cruzeiro in Brazil, Valladolid, and Watford FC now as well. So he's had a fair few jobs, a couple in there as well I can't quite pronounce. But yeah, his managerial career started all the way back in 2017. His last job was in Spain, and now of course he is at the mighty Hornets. So yeah, really interesting, really interesting. VJ, thank you for being a member for 5 months now, nearly half a year. VJ, thank you so much for your ongoing support. Eugene says, what Everton player would I like at Watford next season? Oh, random question, Eugene. What Everton player would I like? I don't think he's an Everton player, or he might be actually. I can't quite remember, but I really like Armando Broja. Actually, I think he's quality, because he was on loan there for a while, wasn't he? So yeah, Broja is a player I personally really like. Eugene says Messi to Watford. That would solve all our problems, absolutely. So get your questions in the live chat. I'll stay live for another 10 or 20 minutes or so digesting this news. We'll bring up the club statement once again, I think, because I do think it is relevant to our discussion points today. Paulo has a hugely impressive track record of working with young players, which is essential when you look at the age profile of our squad, says Watford sporting director João Nani. I mean, for me personally, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought Tom Cleverley was doing a pretty good job of developing our younger players. So yeah, I can't, I'm sure that's probably correct, but from what I'm reading, Tom Cleverley can do all of this anyway. So if I'm Tom Cleverley, I'm pretty gutted at who the successor is. Excuse me, I've got the hiccups. Yeah, I mean, the statement is what it is, isn't it? It's Juan Nani. We know what he is. He's a clown. He's ridiculous. I discussed this in my Tom Cleverley sacking video. Do go and watch that, of course. Yeah, you know what? I'm just underwhelmed. I'm really feeling underwhelmed. I'm not excited. I thought, you know what? As much as I'm gutted about Tom Cleverley, if they appoint a real good, top quality coach, which he could turn out to be, who knows? But this hasn't got me excited. It's not got me feeling buzzing. It's got me feeling quite underwhelmed, upset, and actually, I would have much rather have just kept Tom Cleverley. Is my thoughts really? Melanie says the statement just upsets me even more. Ryan says, was the manager from Spain or Italy? Neither. He's from Uruguay. That's his birth country, but he has managed in Spain in his last job, Ryan. The early rumours, actually, about a week or so ago, were that the new manager was going to be from Uruguay. But then all the rumours and the shortlist suggested otherwise. And yeah, as I said this morning, the name came out of the blue. He was kind of the bookie's favourites at 1-1 odds, I think he was at one time. And yeah, this evening, 7 p.m, Watford announce him. It's crazy how quickly these things happen in the footballing world. I don't usually do this, but shall we take a look at Paulo's Wikipedia page, shall we? Let's take a look. Paulo, let me copy and paste his name. He's got a long name. Paulo Pezzolano. I'll have to get used to pronouncing that. Let's take a look at his Wikipedia, shall we? It's always interesting, isn't it? I don't like using Wikipedia as a source, really. But let's bring it up anyway. Why not? Let's have some good fun. There we go. Okay, so you can see here the previous jobs he's had as manager. As I said, his last job was in Spain. I spoke earlier to a Cruzeiro fan, actually, out in Brazil. They're the one who gave me the information on kind of his style of play and how he's perceived as a manager. You can see there his playing career is quite extensive as well. He didn't really play for huge clubs. Penarol is obviously a recognisable name for some people. Mallorca on a short loan deal as well. But yeah, a lot of them clubs are quite vague to football fans who maybe don't keep up to date with all kind of the foreign South American leagues. So yeah, he's had a decent playing career. 6'2". There we go, 6'2". We've got a manager over 6 foot tall. There we go, guys. How exciting! 42 years old. And yeah, here is his record. So let's take a look. So Valladolid in Spain. Joined in April 2023, left in November 2024. However, I believe in his second season in Spain, he was sacked after a run of 15 games and I think it was 2 or 3 wins. So yeah, that doesn't make for great listening. And you can see here his win percentage as well varies greatly. Across each club. 57% at Talk. Liverpool, obviously that's not the actual Liverpool, it's Montevideo. 41%, 32, 53, 39. In his career, he's managed 312 games, 134 victories, 84 draws, 94 losses. So there we go. I just thought it'd be fun to look at his Wikipedia there. But yeah, I can't claim to know too much more about this guy. As I said, I spoke to someone earlier who gave me them 4 real bullet points, how aggressive his teams are without the ball, out of possession, high pressure, high blocks, a high line, heavily values possession. So he's a manager who really feels that to have the best chance of winning the match, you really have to keep hold of the ball. Stamina, his teams are some of the highest running stats in their respective leagues as well. So yeah, interesting. A slight shift from Tom Cleverley, because Cleverley at times was comfortable actually sitting off with the ball and then using the likes of Vata, Bar, Doumbia, etc. to counter. Tom Cleverley was quite comfortable doing that. It sounds like Paulo does play slightly differently to that. He values possession greatly. So, as I said, until we see some pre-season friendlies and the first few games of the league season, it's going to be hard to judge our new man. But I do have to say, welcome to Watford, Paulo. We will support you, of course, as you are our manager. But what we can't support is the current regime and how much of a clown show it is. So, you know. Yeah, I don't know. I have no words really anymore. Justin Walker, developing youth means little or no investment. Well, exactly, Justin. I think that's another takeaway from the statement as well. Joan Lucanani very clear there on reiterating the fact that it's a young squad, and that they need, a new leader to kind of develop them further. I felt Tom Cleverley was doing a pretty good job at that anyway, personally. Some people do disagree. I've seen dissenting voices on social media against Tom Cleverley, and that is perfectly fine. Everyone is entitled to their opinion, as am I, as am you, as is every other Watford fan, of course. And I can see partly where people are coming from. That the second half of the season form wasn't good enough from anyone, the players, the manager, the club, the lack of investment in the transfer window. The second half of the season wasn't great. I still felt the performance levels were decent. I still felt actually the football we played was fine. The results just weren't going our way. Um, but yeah, some people disagree with me. Some people wanted Cleverly to leave. Some people on Twitter I've seen and other social media platforms are quite pleased with a different face in the building. Which yeah, whether you agree with that, I'm not too sure. But yeah, wowee, major news today. Oliver says just joined. Hello, Oliver. Hope you're well. This is a disgrace. Oliver sounds very angry. Have you seen his record in La Liga? Yes, I have, Oliver, of course. Ryan says, I hope he will stay for more than 3 months. Well, Tom Cleverley just about managed a year, didn't he? Tom Cleverley just about managed a year. I thought Tom Cleverley was going to make it into next season, but no, it seems like on Watford managers, the sell-by date is about 12 months, give or take. So, yeah, I don't think Gino Pozzo likes retaining anyone for really more than a year. As VJ says, we will get behind the new manager. I do have to reiterate that to everyone. I think in the ground, during the match, when we are playing, do show the players and manager your support if you can, of course, because they are trying to win games of football for you. That is the ultimate aim, as they outlined in the club statement, that they want promotion back to the Premier League. But my opinion is, given the current finances and the state of the playing squad as it stands, that is a delusional thing to say, in my opinion, and a delusional aim to have. Of course, everyone in life should aim as high as possible. I want Watford to aim for Premier League promotion, but Watford is so cutthroat. I mean, literally, Tom Cleverley, I thought, did an outstanding job. Yeah, they still got rid of him. So, yeah, you cannot predict what happens at this club. Nathan says, been talks of there being a protest against Pozzo in June. I have been made aware of this. But as far as I can see, there's nothing really behind it as yet. There's not even a location or anything like that. So, yeah, for now, I'm going to steer clear of that. But if there is a genuine protest, that's being led by the right people, I would be happy to promote that if the circumstances are right. Oliver, do you think we will actually back him? Because I have no hope, and if we don't, it will be a carbon copy next season. Do I think we will actually back him? Do you want the short answer? Because the short answer is no. No, I don't think we will back him. We didn't back Tom Cleverley, and Tom Cleverley was the best thing Watford had for a very, very long time. Since, really, I mean, the comparison I make is since Javi Gracia. Javi Gracia, we had a great league season with him. We were very close in the end to qualifying for Europe. Of course, we dropped off towards the end of that campaign, but he still led us to an FA Cup final. The connection we had with Javi is what I would compare my connection to Tom Cleverley with. We've not had a manager since Javi, that in terms of connection between the club and fans. What am I talking about? I'm just waffling away, but you know what I'm saying. I just feel I don't want to sound too stereotypical here, because Javi wasn't English, and I still felt a connection to him. But I'd never heard of this guy before today. He's from Uruguay. He's not really had any massive high-profile jobs. I just struggle to find the commonality between me and him. Obviously, we've not even seen an interview with him yet. So, yeah, I don't know. It just makes me sad, the situation we're in now. And again, Scott Duxbury, where are you? Where's your name behind these statements? He's the CEO. He is in the highest position possible, really, other than Gino Pozzo. All Scott Duxbury is. I mean, I could do Scott Duxbury's job. I mean, I'm not. Scott Duxbury by trade is a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. I do not have a university degree in criminal law. However, all Scott Duxbury does is come out 2 or 3 times a year. He'll do some sort of interview with fans or statements in his programs. He'll just come out very rarely, say some nonsense spiel, and then he'll disappear again, and then he'll reappear, then he'll go away again. You know, Scott Duxbury, 500k a year he's on. I mean, that is the easiest job in football. Basically, don't challenge the owner, do as he says, spout nonsense in public, and I'll give you £500,000 a year. I mean, what a result for him. Absolutely incredible. Um, Melanie, how do you think the first 3 months will go? To be honest, given how blunt they were in that statement, Melanie, in regards to the goals for this season, and this is a realistic probability as well. If Watford end up starting the season, and let's say in September, October, we're 17th, 18th, I could see Gino pulling the trigger again because that's just what he's like. So how do I think the first 3 months will go? Firstly, I've got no idea because we haven't brought in any players yet. But if we start the season badly, and we are towards that bottom end of the table, which could be likely, I think Gino Pozzo, as I said, he's bipolar. He's like a gambling addict who just can't help himself. He sees the Premier League as this holy grail where if we get there, you know, obviously we know the debt Gino has in Watford. If he gets to the Premier League, his financial situation is solved overnight. Literally, a click of the fingers, it's sorted. He'll have loads of buyers coming in because everyone in the world wants to own a Premier League club. The allure of the biggest league in the world is hard to turn down for a lot of rich people. So, yeah, if Watford got promoted, all of Gino Pozzo's problems are solved, and I think that's what he's gambling on. He's just constantly now throwing the dice, time and time again, pushing the can down the road further and further away. But I actually don't think. I actually think we're closer to League One football than we are Premier League promotion, which is why I'm so confused at the wording on the Watford website. It really is strange. Um, Oliver says playing devil's advocate. Okay, fair enough, Oliver. Let's see what you have to say. Maybe they didn't back Cleves because they didn't want to risk it as he's young. Doesn't make it right, but maybe it happened. Maybe they'll back this manager because he's not young. Well, Paulo is only 42, which in managerial terms is still pretty young, Oliver. I've got to say. I mean, I showed you his jobs earlier. He started managing in 2017. You know, he didn't really have many high-profile jobs. The Spanish job he took at Valladolid is probably the biggest job in terms of clubs other fans will know in terms of profile of club. So yeah, I mean the difference in age between both is probably only 7-8 years between Cleverley and Paulo. So I'm not quite buying that argument. He's had more jobs than Tom Cleverley, of course. He's got a longer track record. He's got a bigger CV, if you will. But yeah, yeah. I do see your point, Oliver. I do see your point. Melanie says, I'm hoping the major podcasts, etc., will all organise something. I do want to touch on this as well because whilst I do have a big following, do not scratch your eyes, WD18 from the Rookery End, many others as well. Whilst we all have big followings across social media, I'm not. I personally, if the right protest is there or the right meeting, etc., if the right thing is in place, I personally am happy to promote it if I feel it's going to have a positive effect. What I don't feel is right is the pressure on me, WD18, do not scratch your eyes, Voices of the Vic, from the Rooker End. I don't feel that pressure to do something together is necessarily right because I do this as a hobby. I do this for fun. I just report on the Watford news, give my opinion, listen to you guys. I do this for fun. So for me, if someone said to me, James, oh my God, you have to organise a protest right now down Vicarage Road. For me and my personality, I'm not the right person to do that. Now, other people, there is a Pozzo Out movement on social media that is growing by the day. If other people want to do that and the right things are in place, I would be happy to promote something like that. But as it stands currently, for me, I do this for fun, to inform, and yeah, I wouldn't feel comfortable leading something like that myself, is what I'll say. But there's many other people out there who don't run podcasts or YouTube channels or social media accounts that are also happy to do so. So yeah, it's interesting. Things will happen over the summer, I can assure you. There's already things in place in regards to potential protests, movements, demonstrations, etc. So yeah, just keep an eye out on social media. I'm sure people will post things if they gain traction, if you will. So that's where I'll leave it there. Ryan DeBoob says, I read Talksport yesterday regarding the Watford job. Wayne Rooney was on the list. Yeah, that Wayne Rooney was on the list because I believe he went to the Warner Brothers studio tour with Colleen Rooney, his wife. So I think people put two and two together. Of course, the Harry Potter studio tour is in Watford, so I think people saw Wayne Rooney in Watford, Watford vacancy. Let's put them together and pretend he's going to get the job. Honestly, as much as I don't know anything about Paulo, I would much rather Paulo than Wayne Rooney, is all I'll say. Nathan, why do we sack managers every week? I don't know, man. I don't know. We just do it for fun, just for shits and giggles, really. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Honestly, you know more than me because I've got I've got no idea. I've got no idea. I do have to say as well, looking at the history of Watford sackings, whilst we've sacked a lot of managers, I think the list is like 23 or 24 now in the last 13 years. Whilst we've sacked a lot of people, some of the sackings were justified. Like let's not beat around the bush here. Some of the sackings we've had were actually justified. The appointment of Kike Sanchez Flores the second time round. Do you remember when we got beat 8-0 up at the Etihad? I think they scored 5 goals in about 15 minutes. That sacking was justified. That was a stupid appointment and he deserved to be sacked. There's other examples as well. Roy Hodgson, what a disaster. Ranieri, disaster. But again, you could argue the appointments were wrong. So when you look over the years, even going back to the old championship times, when you look over the years, there are some justified sackings. But there is also a lot of unjustified sackings. And Tom Cleverley, for me, out of all of the sackings, was the biggest unjustification I've ever seen. So, yeah, it's weird. We're a weird club. I would say we're one of the weirdest clubs in England to support. We are so unique. We really are. VJ with the super sticker, thank you so much. I really appreciate your support. Oliver says, please don't give us Rooney. Well, we've got Paulo for now. Oliver. Do not worry. Oliver also says, surely it is actually putting Gino in more debt, paying off all these managers. I don't actually get this owner. It makes no sense. Well, exactly. I mean, we were paying Valerian Ismail's salary up until very recently. Of course, Ismail took the Blackburn job this season. As you guys will know, he beat us in the fixture towards the end of the last campaign. But yeah, we were paying Valerian Ismail's salary up until the point he took that Blackburn job. The same with Ben Manga and Helen Acosta. If you remember them a few years ago, they come in before Juan-Luc Nani as like the new young trendy like sporting directors using data. We were paying them again a lot of money until they found subsequent employment. So yeah, it's not cheap sacking managers, but in Gino's mind, and this is me pretending to be Gino for a second, I think in Gino's mind, financially in his head, I think he thinks it makes more sense to repeatedly sack head coaches and bring new ideas in that way than investing heavily in the playing squad. I think his idea is we've got a young, talented squad, which I can agree with. Don't get me wrong. We did have a young, talented manager, but he's just been sacked. We've got a young and talented squad. Let's bring in a new face to try and get even more performance out of them than Tom Cleverley did. And that is where I disagree, because I felt Tom Cleverley was getting pretty much as much as he could do out of that current group. And I don't know if Paulo can get any more out of them. So yeah, it's a weird one. Please get in a few more questions before I head off. I'll stay on here till 8 p.m. So yeah, I'll head off at 8 p.m. because there is only so much to discuss. We've seen the club's statement. I assume an interview will follow probably tomorrow or in the next couple of days as well, which would be interesting to hear, given the aspirations they've outlined. So yeah, looking forward to, well, I say looking forward to, I'm more interested in it and intrigued than anything to listen to the new manager's interview. Ryan says, What's the reason we kept paying Valera and Ismail? It's just in managers' clauses sometimes. Rob Edwards does the same. We sacked him obviously very early on into his tenure. And yeah, in a lot of clauses in contracts, in football specifically, obviously not real life. If your job sacked you in real life, they wouldn't carry on paying you. But in football generally, for managers, there's always call it like a gardening leave period, maybe. That's probably the right term, where for the next year, until you find employment, they'll continue paying your salary. That's essentially how it works. Stoned Cabbage, what a name. Welcome to the stream. Which players do you think are getting sold this summer? Oh, some big questions today. What players do I think are getting sold? Well, Georgie Shafatatse is the obvious answer. I did think Imran Louza may stay under Tom Cleverley, but now Cleverley's left, I think Louza is a definite to go, because Tom Cleverley, you remember last season, I mean, Louza he was shipped off to France, never to be seen again. There was rumours about his attitude, not being there at the training ground. And Tom Cleverley revitalised his Watford career to such an extent that he won the Player of the Season award. And I do feel the Player of the Season is slightly cursed, because I think João Pedro won it and then he left. Wesley Hoot won it, he left. Louza won it this year. So yeah, the record there suggests that Louza will probably leave as well. So yeah, Georgie definitely, Louza definitely. Now Tom Cleverley's gone. Kwadwo Bar, I think will stay. I don't know anything about that, but I just think, given where he's at in his career, I think one more season at Watford isn't going to hurt him. I think he'd still be one of our standout players. So I think Bar will stay. Who else do I think will leave? I think there's a high chance. I'm not going to say a high chance, but I do think there's a chance Andrews might leave. As I said, I don't know too much about this manager's system. So, yeah, I don't know. I've just got a feeling Ryan Andrews might go, you know what? It's my time to leave Watford. I don't know why, but yeah, I don't know. Who else? Rocco Vata, I think he'll stay. Matty Pollock, I think he'll stay as well. James Abankwah, hopefully he'll stay. But yeah, I don't know. It's a big question. We'll do a whole separate video about that during the summer, of course. Mark, what makes him better than Cleverley? Can he even speak English? I do not know that fact. If he's so good, why is he out of work now? Ryan says, thank you for your reply. No worries at all. Nathan, wait, when did you have Ogbonna and Sissoko? Since last summer. And yeah, Angelo Ogbonna barely played any football, and Musa Sissoko. Actually, Musa Sissoko, to be fair to the guy, he actually had a good end to the season. But yeah, since last summer, Nathan. John Boy says it is a disaster. This is embarrassing. We're going to be in serious relegation problems. Yeah, the contrast in feeling here is remarkable, because nearly all of you watching me today are coming on here and saying, we're destined for relegation. It's League One football next season. Yet the Watford statement on the website is, portraying a completely different set of aims. It's not a fight to stay in the league. It's a fight for automatic promotion back to the Premier League. I mean, you can't get two more contrasting views than that. It's unbelievable. Oliver, I really can't believe we have got rid of a manager that the players actually play for and respect, which we haven't had for years. It's embarrassing. Yes, Absolutely. And I think when Tom Cleverley left as well, you could see how much he meant to a lot of the players. I'm sure you guys follow them across, different social platforms, Instagram, X, TikTok, etc. And the likes of Vata, Sissoko, Doumbia, Loser as well. They all put out such lovely comments. Matty Pollock as well about Tom Cleverley and how much he did for them personally as players. I think Tom Deli Bashiru said he was the best manager he'd ever played under, and Tom Deli Bashiru was at Manchester City when Pep Guardiola first joined. So, yeah, some big words from the Watford players when Cleverley left. And for me, I still feel it's the wrong decision. I mean, Gino Pozzo, in the statement he released the other day, I've not even spoke about that. I think we should bring that up now, actually, to end the stream, because I think that's a good place to end. I'll try and find that for you now. But in the owner's statement the other day, again, Gino Pozzo was very, he didn't really care what we had to say. He was very like vindicated in the decision he made, and he felt it was still the right thing to do, sacking Tom Cleverley for the future of the club. Just going to try and find the statement for you now. Here we go. Right. Angie, hello. I got your email earlier, Angie, as well, so thanks for sending that across. Any word on what Tom will do next? I've got no idea whatsoever. The rumour was he may become either the Norwich manager or the new QPR manager. As I said, I've got no inside info on Tom Cleverley and what his future holds, but I think Norwich would be a good move for him. I think they've got, a better playing squad and new owners, most importantly, and also much more financial resources than Watford have. So, whilst it may seem like a sideward step, I think Norwich is a good, sensible move for Cleverley to do. And also, as well, they still play in yellow, so he'd be going to another club that wears yellow. Well, yellow and green, but primarily yellow. So yeah, QPR and Norwich seem to be the strong links with Tom Cleverley. Let's go through the Gino Pozzo statement released 6 days ago to end proceedings today. We've read Nani's statement today a few times, so we'll go on to what Gino Pozzo said. And yeah, this was a weird one as well. It's 13 years since we first invested in Watford, and in that time, this magnificent football club has changed enormously. Vicarage Road is a home that every single one of us can be proud of, blah, blah, blah. We had the wonderful highs, wonderful lows. Let's get on to the meat of this. So he says, I realise we have a responsibility to make this club the very best. Absolutely, you are the owner, mate. That it can be, and I'm energised in my determination to make Watford competitive, successful, and challenge for a return back to the Premier League. So again, the message in there, the return back to the Premier League. We saw it today in the statement for the new manager. We've seen it in the owner's statement there. The wording, return back to the Premier League, that is what they want. This is a responsibility we can all take incredibly seriously. The Championship is tough because there is a depth to the competition, which makes it one of the hardest leagues in the world. As I said earlier, the league is only going to get harder this season. Wrexham, Birmingham, Southampton, Ipswich, Leicester, they're all coming down and coming up. I feel the league this season or next season, because obviously it's technically not finished yet, it's going to be 10 times harder. The money in this division, for a second division in world football, it's unbelievable. I mean, the money floating around in the Championship, there's richer teams in the Championship than there are in Serie A, La Liga, Ligue 1. It's crazy. Like the standard of the Championship is probably higher than like the Turkish league and the French First Division. It's crazy. It really is. So back to the statement. Where was we? He said, but I have seen real signs this season that we have the talent within our squad to challenge for the playoff places next season and hopefully promotion. Okay. Yes, there has been a lack of consistency at times, which saw us drop away when I thought we could be in the top 6. But we have a group of highly talented young players he will have only benefited from the experience of the Championship this season and what it means to compete in this league. Tom is a bright young coach who has a real future in the game, but he needs time to gain experience, and in football, time is a precious commodity. I felt to achieve our immediate aims next season, we need a more experienced head coach to get the best out of our squad. And he clearly believes that Paulo is that man. I do not believe Paulo is that man, personally. But again, my mind is just like scrambled. Like, this guy talks nonsense. Results and performances after Christmas were those of a club in a relegation fight. Now, out of everything in this statement from Gino, that is the only thing I can agree with. In terms of league form after Christmas, Watford were in the bottom three. And I've said this before, actually. When we sacked Javi Gracia, obviously we reached the FA Cup final. But by reaching the final, our league form really tailed off. And then we went into the following season. Our league form continued. And then he sacked Javi Gracia straight away. So it's no surprise to me, really, that he sacked Tom Cleverley, given what I've just read there. Results and performances, certainly after Christmas, were those of a club in a relegation fight. And we couldn't allow that momentum to continue into the next campaign. So again, like someone said earlier, playing devil's advocate, from an owner's perspective, you can kind of see why he did it. For that reason. But given everything we built, and the development of the younger players, and the first half of the season we had, and the connection we had as fans to Tom, I still feel it was the wrong decision, even if you factor in that league form. This was interesting as well. This was a really interesting part of the statement. Gino said, I have seen the reaction. So he obviously saw the outrage online. He said, I've seen the reaction and I accept that. I realise there will be some fans who, no matter what we say, are not going to agree with us. This is normal. It's football. And I respect that the game is about strong opinions. Now, this bit's delusional. He then says, what I will say is that we believe we have made the correct decision for the good of the football club. That is the basis for every decision we take. Wow. Wow. What a ridiculous thing to say after completely shattering everything we'd built over the past season. If they were always going to sack Tom, a lot of the talk around Tom Cleverley from the owner and from João Nani is that he is too young and too inexperienced to lead this group forward. If that was always the case and they always believed that, why did we go with Tom in the first place? Why not bring in, I don't know, Pacheta or this Paulo guy last season? Because for me, it feels like we've wasted the year. Given what João Nani and Gino Pozzo have said, Tom Cleverley for them was too inexperienced and too young. So why waste a year? Why waste a year? I don't know. I don't know what they were thinking. I don't know whether they just appointed Tom to appease the fans and keep us quiet for the season. As I mentioned in my sacking video, that the timing of the sacking is so bad. It is so bad. To do it the day after season ticket renewals close is disgraceful. It is terrible. For me, that is up there with one of the worst things I've ever done. Of course, I disagree with the sacking, but a lot of people renewed based on the fact that they believed Tom Cleverley would be the manager next season. And as I said in my video about the sacking, I did that myself. And maybe I'm naive. Who knows? I probably am, given our owner's history. But to do that the day after season ticket renewals shut is awful. It is absolutely terrible, disgraceful, despicable. I'm trying to think of more adjectives here, but it's unbelievable. It really is unbelievable. I'm going to leave it there, I think, for today. There's not too much more I can go into in regards to the new manager. We covered that earlier in the stream. Slimy. That's a good one. Slimy. That's a good word to describe Gino Pozzo. Thank you, Angie. There's not too much more for me to go into with the new manager. I'll do some more research on him tomorrow. I'll make a more in-depth video about kind of his systems, formations, performances at previous clubs, etc. I'll probably wait for his first interview to come out as well to see what his initial quotes are from joining Watford. But in conclusion, how do I feel about today? I feel upset is how I feel. I feel really upset, disappointed. It makes me not want to wear this badge, and I think that's a real terrible thing. But do I want to walk around in public wearing a Watford shirt? I can't believe I'm saying that, but do I want to represent what this owner is about? I don't think so. So, yeah, that's where I'll leave it today. I feel weird. I just feel weird, uneasy. For me, they've outlined clearly the goals for next season, which is playoffs or promotion. If they don't achieve playoffs next season with this manager, what then happens next? Do we just sack him again? Does Paulo go? We bring the next person in and they say we're challenging for promotion. I don't know. I don't know where we go from here. It's just an endless cycle. It's just an endless cycle of bringing people in, getting that connection with them over time, ripping it away, bringing the next person in. I'm never gonna feel close to my club if this is how we ran. That's just a matter of fact. Some people may do, some people won't. But for me, next season, of course, I'll continue doing this because I enjoy talking to you guys and running our social accounts. But for me, next season, football isn't really about the football. It's about going to football with my brother, enjoying the food, enjoying the social environment. I'm sure a lot of people agree with that as well. I'm just struggling to really care about what happens on the pitch. And yeah, it's sad. It really is sad. Okay, I'll leave it there. Thank you so much for tuning in to this emergency live stream. Today, of course, we've been live an hour now since the news broke on the Watford website. We'll go through it one more time. Watford have appointed Paulo Pezzolano as the club's new head coach. Whilst Watford haven't confirmed the length of contract, Alex Crook from TalkSport has said it's a one-year deal with the option to extend for a further year. So you'd imagine if he achieves promotion or the playoffs, they may extend that for another 12 months. Equally, if he doesn't do well, then the club aren't committed to a manager on a longer-term contract. So we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry the news isn't fantastic. But yeah, as I said earlier, I wish we could all go to bed, think this was a bad dream, and Tom Cleverley, in the click of a finger, could magically reappear as the Watford head coach tomorrow. But unfortunately, that is only in my dreams, and we are in real life, and that isn't the case. So thank you for watching. I'll see you again soon. As I said, I'll do a more in-depth video, deep dive into the manager once he's done his first interview at Watford. And yeah, I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight.